Sabbath, a day of freedom. No matter what we do, we always get to our favorite Adventist topic.
A day of freedom, is it really? Or is it a day of rules and restrictions? We can have two different experiences on Sabbath. It all depends on our perception of what Sabbath is all about. So let's talk today a little bit about that.
We're continuing the study on ministering to those in need, the least of these. And we looked at how God created us and how relationships are in the core of everything that He made. We looked at how He wants us to transmit what we receive, our blessings to become blessings for others, and that these principles are engraved deep in His character and in the religious and civil setup that He established for the nation of Israel. This week we are looking at the Sabbath, because as the author states, the Sabbath was a demonstration of how we are to interact with God and with each other. There's some interesting stuff coming out of this study.
When talking about the Sabbath, it's hard not to talk about how the Israelites got to know through personal experience what the Sabbath means. They were on their way to Canaan through the desert, and as you can assume, there was hardly any water, but even more importantly, there was hardly any food there. So God delivered in a miraculous way a manna from the sky. The people learned two important lessons from that. First, God was taking care of their needs. And second, God was honoring the Sabbath because on the sixth day, He was delivering double the portion of manna, and on the seventh day, they were supposed to eat and consume what they had stored from the previous day. Think about for a moment, if any one of us was in this caravan of people going through the desert, we would have testified that God was really serious about keeping the Sabbath day as holy.
Try to teach a bunch of slaves, oppressed and used to battle to survive, how to live in society that they are creating. When totalitarian regimes fall, as we experienced it a few decades ago back in Eastern Europe, the morale and the focus of the nation struggles. Teaching unselfishness is a tough job. And this experience with the manna is amazing. You had to take only enough and trust that tomorrow God will provide again. And only on Friday there was a double portion so that they can prepare and rest on Sabbath. This dependence on God is big. Only then we can start growing in unselfishness, generosity, grace.
Did God establish the Sabbath day only as an observance ritual of good faith? Or was there even bigger meaning to it? Since sin came into power in this earth, God's recognition as creator has diminished more and more and more. Questions, doubt, and misconception were planted in the heads and the minds of Adam, Eve, and everybody who came after that. However, God's response to that was a clear message of remembrance, because He said, remember to keep the Sabbath day holy, because in 7 days God created, and in the seventh He rested. However, this was the first reason why, because He is our creator. Later on, when God brought Israel out of Egypt, the second reason was revealed clearly, and it was that the reason of recreating and redeeming the human beings. The Sabbath day for the Israelites was an experience together with God that transformed them back into His image, and as such, it stood as a sign that I, the Lord, make them holy, according to Ezekiel 20:12.
The Sabbath is about this deep change of our nature that only God can do. It's amazing how much details are provided for the fourth commandment compared to any others. And it's all about relationships. Not only in regards to our family, household, potential workers, but also about the foreigner residing in town. Meaning the people who are not like us. The lesson cites Sig Tonstad, commenting that the Sabbath commandment is prioritized from the bottom up and not from the top looking down, giving first considerations to the weakest and most vulnerable members of society, those who need rest the most: the slave, the resident alien, the beast of burden are singled out for special mention. In the rest of the seventh day, the unprivileged, even mute animals, find an ally. From the book, The Lost Meaning of the Seventh Day.
We started our study today with the title, Sabbath, a Day of Freedom. And it naturally comes to my mind the question, a day of freedom for what? And my personal answer is that whatever Jesus felt free to do on that Sabbath day. First, he worshipped on this day with everybody else, regardless of class and status. And second, he used to love helping and healing people on the Sabbath day. In both instances, he focused his concern on the others, not on himself. So if we wonder what is it that we can do on that special day, it is to worship with others and to focus on others' needs and wants. And if you can just try to imagine the scope of things that it includes, the list will be pretty long.
Healing. We need healing. The people around us need healing. It's an important and amazing experience to share.
Now, the Sabbath keeping was not only about a day in the week. There was the seventh year to be kept as a Sabbath. There was also the year after the 7 sets of 7 years, which was the 50th year to be kept as a Sabbath. There were different lessons that naturally the Israelites learned from those holidays. Slaves were released on the 7th year. Likewise, debts were pardoned on the 7th year, and land was returned back to its original owners in 7 years. Even for me today, it's hard to understand that, to get this idea. Why? How come this way? It's not today's common sense of doing things. However, there were such valuable lessons here. First, trust that regardless of the laws, God will provide for their needs. And second, people were learning that they don't have to oppress others in order to provide for themselves. At the end, I want to take away one thought from that study. Keeping the Sabbath was living out Jesus' instruction to seek his kingdom first, because our Father will provide for every other need that we have.
Our nature will try to beat the system, being the ones who need help or the ones who can help. Sin has damaged us greatly. Do we value and desire this change, this restoration that only Jesus can perform in us? To trust him, to value the relationship, to love as he does, to serve as he showed us. Join us next week for the lesson continuing the study on mercy and justice in Psalms and Proverbs.